Welcome, dear viewers, to a One Storyteller, where every tale is a journey and every journey is a revelation. Tonight, we bring you a story that will send shivers down your spine, tug at your heartstrings, and leave you questioning the very fabric of fate. Buckle up, because this is no ordinary ride. This is the story of a police officer, a routine traffic stop, and a tattoo that changed everything. Let's dive in. Officer Mark Harris had seen it all in his 10 years on the force. From speeding teenagers to drunk drivers, nothing surprised him anymore, or so he thought. It was a quiet Tuesday night, the kind of night where the hum of the engine and the occasional crackle of the radio were the only companions to his thoughts. The moon hung low, casting a silvery glow over the empty highway. That's when he saw it, a sleek black sedan weaving slightly between lanes. Instinct kicked in. He flipped on his siren, the red and blue lights cutting through the darkness like a beacon. The car slowed and pulled over to the shoulder. Mark adjusted his hat, took a deep breath, and stepped out of his patrol car. "License and registration, please," he said, his voice steady and professional. The driver's window rolled down, revealing a woman in her late 20s. Her auburn hair was tied back in a loose ponytail, and her green eyes met his with a calmness that was almost unsettling. She handed him the documents without a word. As Mark glanced at her license, something caught his eye. A tattoo on her wrist, partially hidden by the sleeve of her jacket. It was a small, intricate design, a crescent moon with a star nestled inside it. His breath hitched. He knew that tattoo. He had seen it before. 20 years ago, Mark was just a boy, living in a small town with his parents and his younger sister, Emily. Emily was his world. She was the kind of person who lit up a room with her smile, who believed in the goodness of people, even when the world seemed dark. She had that same tattoo on her wrist, a symbol of her love for the night sky and her dream of becoming an astronomer. But one fateful night, Emily disappeared. She had gone out for a walk and never returned. The town searched for weeks, but there was no trace of her. The case went cold, and Mark's family was left with a void that could never be filled. Over the years, Mark had tried to move on, but the memory of his sister haunted him. And now here he was, staring at a tattoo that was identical to hers. Mark's hands trembled as he handed the documents back to the woman. "Where did you get that tattoo?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The woman looked at him, her expression unreadable. "It's a long story," she said softly, "but it's not mine." Mark's heart raced. "What do you mean it's not yours?" The woman hesitated, then reached into her glove compartment and pulled out a photograph. It was old, the edges frayed, but the image was clear. A young girl with auburn hair and green eyes, smiling at the camera. On her wrist was the same crescent moon and star. "That's my mother," the woman said. "She gave me this car, and this tattoo was hers. She told me it was a symbol of hope, of never giving up, no matter how dark the night." Mark felt like the ground had been pulled out from under him. "Your mother? What's her name?" "Emily," the woman replied. "Emily Harris." The name hit Mark like a thunderbolt. Emily. His Emily, his sister. He stumbled back, his mind racing. How was this possible? Emily had been gone for 20 years. He had mourned her, buried her in his heart, and yet here was her daughter, sitting in front of him, alive and real. "Emily," Mark whispered. "She's alive." The woman nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "She's alive. She's been living in another state, under a different name. She never stopped looking for you, for our family, but she was afraid of what might have happened if she came back." Mark's vision blurred as tears streamed down his face. He reached out, placing a hand on the woman's shoulder. "Take me to her," he said. "Please." The drive to Emily's home was a blur. Mark's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Joy, disbelief, anger, and hope. How could she have stayed away for so long? Why hadn't she reached out? But as they pulled into the driveway of a small, cozy house, all those questions faded away. All that mattered was that she was here. She was alive. The door opened, and there she was. Emily. Older, yes, but still the same. Her hair was streaked with gray, and there were lines on her face that hadn't been there before, but her eyes were the same. "Mark?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Emily," he replied, stepping forward, and then they were in each other's arms, holding on as if they would never let go. As they sat in the living room, Emily told her story. She had been kidnapped that night, taken by a man who had been watching her for weeks. He had kept her captive for years, but she had never given up hope. She had escaped, but by then she was too afraid to return. She had started a new life, but she had never forgotten her family. "I thought about you every day," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I wanted to come back, but I was scared of what you would think of me, scared of what might happen if he found me again." Mark reached out, taking her hand in his. "You're safe now," he said. "You're home." The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. Mark introduced Emily to his wife and children, and they welcomed her with open arms. As for the woman who had led Mark to Emily, she turned out to be more than just a stranger. She was Emily's daughter, yes, but she was also a reminder of the strength and resilience that ran in their family. She had grown up hearing stories about her Uncle Mark, and she had always hoped that one day they would meet. And now they had. Cue uplifting music, visuals of the reunited family laughing and sharing stories. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to A1 Storyteller for more stories that touch the heart and stir the soul. Until next time, remember, every ending is just the start of a new story.